What's going on, guys? There is an ongoing debate among those of us who choose for our mobile phones to seek out productivity. Those of us who are bored by the standard slab style smartphone that, yeah, sure, it's fine, it gets the job done, but we want a little bit more. We want a little bit more ability to multitask, to truly be productive. And those people like you and I, of course, wind up looking at two particular devices, it seems, as far as smartphones, all in one sorts of devices. And that is the Z Fold, for the fact that it can open up and be a full-fledged Android tablet, or those of us who have gone the other route and grabbed Surface Duo or Surface Duo 2. So what I want to do in this video is I'm going to do a comparison, a deep dive here into actual multitasking, getting stuff done between these two devices. Now, if you want to see photography between Surface Duo 2 and a Z Fold 2, Z Fold 3 is going to be approximately the same. So it's going to be a really similar comparison. That video has already been made. I'll put a link to it down in the description. But this is going to be focused on actual multitasking. What is it like to launch apps and to then launch more apps and to then get things done on these two devices? Now, before we go any further than that, it is important to point out a couple of things here. So the Z Fold 3 is going to run you about $18.99 before you do any sorts of trade-ins and things like that. Trade-ins are going to be separate. Figure that out on your own. Surface Duo 2 is going to run you about $14.99 to buy. So neither one of these devices are super duper cheap. You can find a Z Fold 2 refurbished, used, renewed for even cheaper, closer to that $1,000 mark or so. But still, we're not talking about cheap devices here. But enough about all that. Let's actually talk about the hardware here, because these two devices are taking radically different approaches to the problem of mobile productivity, multitasking, so forth and so on. And I would argue that one of these devices is actually attacking that even more directly than the other. So with the Z Fold device, you have a cover display, right? This is a pretty normal looking display, if not for the fact that it is exceedingly tall, narrow, skinny. But as far as doing single-handed things, it is very good. And this is something that you need to really consider when you're deciding between a Z Fold and a Surface Duo, because Surface Duo has no external display, making it a two-handed device pretty much all the time. If you intend on frequently having to one-handed pull a phone out of your pocket, unlock it, and then interact with something with one hand, lock it back and put it back in that pocket, the Z Fold may be the better way to go, because with Surface Duo, you can't do that. Sure, you can pull it out of your pocket with one hand, but you're going to need another hand to come over in order to open the thing up before you can interact with it at all. Now, you could just keep it folded over in phone mode like this and just leave it in your pocket all the time open. But with the camera bump, there's a gap there. It's going to be kind of awkward. Now, you could do it, but it's definitely not the way it's meant to be kept in your pocket. So if one-handed use is a big deal to you, keep that in mind. Now from there, I think this is where things actually do get interesting, because it's time to actually open up the Z Fold and to open up the Surface Duo. And let's talk about how these two different devices handle opening apps and opening multiple apps. So when we talk about the Z Fold 2, one of my favorite things about it, and this applies to the Z Fold 1 or the Z Fold 3, any Z Fold, all of this stuff is going to apply. So before people start saying, oh, that's not the newest Z Fold, I know, I don't care. All of this stuff applies exactly the same to all of those devices, so chill out. One of my favorite things about it is this taskbar that you can add to the side. Because typically what you're restricted to doing with the Z Fold is you can open up an app, sure, just from your normal app launcher. But then if you wanted to launch another app in split screen, you would have to use the old method where you drug out to get this bar, and then you could drag the other one over to do your split screen. And it did work very, very well. But now you can actually go ahead and pin that bar so that it is now there all the time. So now we've reduced one thing that you had to do before. Now you can just find the icon that you had already attached to that taskbar and drag it over. And that's pretty much how multitasking works on the Z Fold. Let's pick any app. Let's go to Outlook, and let's say we're going to be typing up an email, right? And we need to reference a bit of information that is in our OneNote. Well, I don't have OneNote here on my taskbar. If it was, I could just drag it over, but if not, we can just touch this icon down here, which opens up all of our apps. We can go find OneNote and we can drag it here to the side to split screen. And now we can also drag it to the bottom, which would give us this look here. So you can have it oriented this way, or my personal favorite way to do this is to actually leave it like this, then to take the device and rotate it like this so that you have a setup that is actually pretty similar to what you have here on Surface Duo. Now, if you want more space here, you can go ahead and unpin that taskbar, and it's going to widen out a little bit more. All right, now let's slide this on up here, and we'll try to replicate the exact same thing here on Surface Duo. So there's a lot of confusion about Surface Duo actually being a Microsoft device. A lot of people are confused and they wonder, is this a Windows device? No, it's not. It does in fact run Android. It uses Microsoft's launcher on top of Android. And the best way to think about Surface Duo 2 is that you have two separate Android devices side by side. This is not a tablet. This is two separate devices, like I said, side by side. So let's kind of replicate the same thing here. Let's open up Outlook, and you're going to see that it just looks like Outlook on a phone, because that's effectively what you have here. You have two phones. Outlook is on one of them. Now you want to open up OneNote. Well, OneNote was actually on the screen. This thing just now covered up. No problem, because you can scroll through your different launcher screens as if nothing else is going on. So let's scroll over and let's open up OneNote. And now you can see what I'm getting at here, that these two do look kind of similar in terms of, you know, the screen real estate's not that far off, and you can do the same sorts of things, right? You can come down here, you can open up an email, you can open up a particular note, you can open up an email and a note over here. They're going to behave somewhat similarly, but one of the biggest ways that they don't behave similarly is when it comes to actual navigation, and this is a place where Surface Duo to me has a big advantage. So on Surface Duo, if I want to go back on Outlook, it's simple. I'm just going to swipe on the side on Outlook. If I want to go back on OneNote, simple. Swipe to the right on the side there on OneNote. Now that closed the app because I hadn't gone anywhere, but you see what I'm saying. On the Z Fold, the last app that you tapped, so the last app that is open, is the one that will receive the gesture. So if I have this one open, it's the last active app, and I swipe right over here, I'll go back over there. Is that the end of the world? No. But is it something that takes some getting used to and is a little bit frustrating at times? Absolutely. This is more intuitive. Now, one big advantage that the Z Fold has over Surface Duo is the fact that Surface Duo can only have two apps opened up at a time, whereas Z Fold 2 can do more. Let's go ahead and let's open up Twitter down here. Now we have three apps open. Let's go ahead and open up a calculator as a floating window in the middle. Now, how useful is this going to be to you? Now, that's something you're going to have to answer. I don't know how I can answer that. It's never been that useful to me. I've pretty much never done any more than just two apps at a time, but maybe that's something that will be a game changer for you. Now, another place that the Z Fold definitely has the advantage is when you're doing one thing at a time, right? And if it's multimedia in particular, that's a big place of advantage for the Z Fold. If you do something like watch a lot of YouTube content, I don't think I'm going to tell you anything too shocking if I say that the Z Fold 2 is going to be the superior video content watching device. Let's do the same thing here on Surface Duo. I mean, look, you've got that as an option. You can go into phone mode and rotate. And that's not even really much of a comparison. Clearly, this is going to be better at that. Although you do have tint mode. Let's not undersell tint mode. That is a pretty useful thing to be able to do. And I guess just to make sure everyone has seen this, we'll go ahead and span YouTube across both screens and go full screen, and you'll see how terrible of an experience that is. I guess if that doesn't bother you, then sure. But yeah, multimedia, if that's a thing you like doing, that's going to be the better device. But I did say the S word there, so let's talk about spanning. There are some apps, not very many, but there are a few apps that when you span them on Surface Duo, you will get new functionality. And spanning is where you simply take an app, and normally you can drag an app from screen to screen. Let's say we want Outlook to be over there. We want Outlook to be over here, whatever. Spanning is when you drag it to the middle and it opens up across both screens. And Outlook is a great example because now we have our email list over here and the actual email opened up over there. And in apps that work well with this, it's very, very good. Let's open up Outlook over here, and you're going to see you're going to get the same interface effectively. You're going to get your email list there and the email over here. Tablet can do a lot of the spanning kind of stuff here, but a tablet can also go full screen without having a big hinge down the middle to obstruct productivity or to obstruct your enjoyment of watching that video. So to me, spanning is fine, it's whatever, but it's not something that you can't duplicate here. At the end of the day, it's really this simple to me. This can do a lot of what this can do, okay? This can do split screen, and it can do it better than any other normal phone in existence. However, it can't do it better than this. It is going to come down to what your primary need actually is. Because I'm a firm believer that when it comes to split screen multitasking, you cannot beat having two screens. Software is good, but it's slower and it's harder to navigate. This is something I actually showed in another video, but I'll talk about it here quickly as well. Let's say I'm going to type something here on my Z Fold. I'm in split screen. Well, now my keyboard has covered most of my screen. Now I can use the floating keyboard and move it back and forth. Sure, if you want to do that, it's a little annoying, but it does work. On Surface Duo, no such problem. The keyboard does not obstruct what I'm doing. And if I move my app over here, and I opened up the keyboard over here and went to type on this side, the keyboard just follows it around. There's no problem with navigating when you have two screens. It's much more intuitive. So again, this comes down to what your primary need is. Are you a pretty normal person that watches a lot of content, wants to scroll Instagram and see big, beautiful pictures, and you do some productivity stuff on the side? Hey, the Z Fold is going to be a really good device for you. Are you someone that needs the best multitasking experience possible and you're okay with watching your videos on a really big screen instead of on a huge screen? Well, then Surface Duo may be the device for you. I mean, frankly, the Z Fold is better than Surface Duo at pretty much everything except for multitasking. That's what this is about. You have to decide how you rank the importance of these different things. And if multitasking is your most important thing and everything else comes next, maybe Duo's for you. Guys, thanks for making it to the end of today's video. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button or maybe hitting that join button as well, because that does help me out so very much. Stay tuned for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.